All right, everybody. This will be my first actual recorded video because my last video got eaten for game development, and I'm going to start making some of these game development little videos just because I'd like to get back into game development because once many moons ago I was into it a little bit, worked with Unreal 3 a little bit, so I got Unreal 4, which is free. Wonderful, free. And I'm going to do some basic stuff on it. Today I'm going to put together just a simple little platformer using binary space partition just to get more familiar with the basics and to use the really basic stuff that's included in Unreal by default. I have not done a lot of work with Unreal 4 yet. I've done some basic stuff, try to get refamiliarized myself with how to move and everything. Have not done much work with BSP in Unreal 4, but I'm going to put together a simple level, or try to, and hopefully it'll be good. And hopefully it'll be on the correct monitor. And as you can see here, you have the basic demo first-person level. But I'm not as interested in that. I do need the code that comes with this. I do not believe that you will spawn initially correctly without this bit of nonsense right here. But I can't get rid of the rest of this. I don't need any of these. Delete all of that. Okay. If I can just delete? No, of course not. Can't just delete. Of course, I don't know the correct buttons. And we'll screw around with the processing and everything later. And get rid of the template level thing. And rebuild lighting because it looks hideous now. And while that's going on, I will start to work with some brushes here. I don't need a place. I need geometry, volumes. No, not volumes. Geometry. First thing I want to do though is figure out how far down I need to drop before I'll die. Not very far. There's no respawn mechanics programmed in because, well, you're caught in a small room initially, so we're going to have to deal with potentially falling off and having to restart. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have pits around to catch the player and then have him walk back up. But that will require us to take everything and move it up so it's above the kill volume a little bit. And I'm sure that there are far better ways of doing this, but for right now, as I said, I'm just refamiliarizing myself with the engine, how everything works. So let's expand this. Asymmetric expansion, and then we will move it below the player start, and then we'll take the player starting area and we'll decrease that a little bit so our initial platform is kind of smallish. And we'll have something to catch the player if he falls down now. Not a lot of jump by default with the controls. And looks like we don't have a ramp in here. We have stairs, but I've never ever liked the stairs because the stairs tend to, the collision volume is not actually a ramp, so the player gets stuck on the stairs, which sucks. So instead, I'll put a volume for a box, and I believe I should be able to geometry edit this into something a little bit nicer. There. Now we have a ramp. That's local. Which button is for world? How does world? Apparently that does not work for this shape. Must be because we edited it. Fantastic. Huh? Maybe not. Obviously I got some work to do with figuring out how that works. But we do need to create a bigger ramp so that the player can actually reach the platform above us. So if I can actually grab the gizmo here. Come on. Come on. No, it's not going to be my buddy today. There we go. And that's probably a bit bigger than we need, but it goes to the floor, and the player never able to see it, so it never happened. So one thing about development is that so long as it looks good, it doesn't matter if it's actually garbage somewhere else. It's camera speed. How precise are our controls? I remember that in Unreal 3 you had to screw around with how many units you would move per each tick when you were doing something like this. I always was fairly precise with my movements. Huh. Too steep. Oh, that's okay. We'll take it, and we will scale it this way to give us a slightly less steep ramp. I'll line that up there. Now let's see. Alright. So now we can fall down, we can access our platform back up. Let's shift this a little bit forward. No? Yes. A little bit of odd highlighting there. Okay. What am I selecting? Selecting a box brush 2. Okay, I did have the right thing. Like I say, new to the system, not familiar with the controls yet. Got a little bit more narrow. And we'll create a bigger platform along the way. And I am planning on having this as the lowest level, at least in this section, to be the place where you can catch the player and then have him walk back onto the platform to start over again. Because I don't have a respawn mechanic, otherwise I would just have the player fall to his death and respawn him in the appropriate location. But like I said, I'm just doing this as basic, learning how to do BSPs. That's hideous. And I should be able to... actually, I think I will create a new box. And I will alter this into my walls. One wall. Duplicate that into a second wall. Is there a hotkey for camera? I must know. And then we can then edit this into a third wall and manipulate it. Actually, let's rotate it. That's the smart thing to do. Ah, you're thinking with your brains. And then we can manipulate it so that it's roughly the appropriate length. Close enough for government work. And the player should be unable to walk out of the playing arena now. Walls might be slightly too small. May need to be adjusted. I don't think there's any run mechanic though. Yeah, walls are too short. Goodbye, Cruel Worlds! So I'm going to go in and select all my walls. If I find out which button is the correct multi-select, and then let's they should be scaled properly because they should all be roughly on the same orientation. Of course, they probably extend pretty far into the ground now, so I'll just move them up until we have a giant prison block. And there now. Now there will be no more player escaping. Unless he, you know, jumps out here. Ah! Okay. So next thing is I want to have a platform that the player will get on top of that will form kind of a checkpoint in the middle. Believe it or not, yes, I do have a plan in my head. It is a stupid plan, as are all my plans, but that does not matter right now. Increase it that way, increase it until it extends past the walls there. roughly line it up due to the nature of how the XY graphing on it work, the UV rather works on it. Scale it this way. And the player should be unable to jump onto it. Like I say, the default jump is not particularly good. And so now we can put in some platforms. And I'm just going to make them little floaty platforms. Very basic, kind of a 90s style, just generic floating squares. And I can copy that a few times. Player cannot jump very far, so I'll have to do some experimentation to see how far I can make these platforms apart before the player can't reach between them. And we'll have a final section. And we'll see roughly how far I can move. Anyone who's played Half-Life knows that first-person platforming is not exactly a precise science. There we go. And I can put a little bit more distance between each platforms because, as you saw, the player has... I'm not sure whether it's because he's bouncing due to the physics property or what, but he seems to be able to go a little bit further than that. Move that over there. This further ahead. And delete that one altogether. Give it kind of an S pattern. Delete that one. Put that there. And I'll extend that actually into the platform there. And we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I don't think we had the player designed with any air control either. So it's you can't move in the air. Damn you, physics, you're too realistic. Yeah, that's still fairly simple. So let's make it more difficult. And then we'll change elevation slightly to see how that affects things. And this should prove to be far more challenging. But still, basic platformer. Alright. So now we have another section And I will just kind of roughly copy what I did for the last section with the elevated platform there to provide a midpoint. And I think I'll copy the walls all together, although I could extrude them outwards as well. Interesting how the UV kind of map that they have on there changes as you get closer and further away. Although I can still see it here. And then I will need another one of these. And I will simply copy it, because that is the best way. The lazy dev way. And just so the player can actually see that there's a ramp, I'll put this crooked like that, which will also give me a little bit more room over here. And we'll shove this into the wall. Like I say, first-person platforming is not exactly a precise science. Especially not when you can't see a shadow underneath you. And you have no air control. Why you no air control, Unreal? Why you no air control? There. Now we have a ramp up here, and I can make some more platforms for another section. I don't know what the equivalent of making Kismet movable actors would be. Unreal 4, unfortunately. Actually, I don't need that box. I can just copy one of these guys. Move it over here. But you can't just do the same thing, because that would be boring. So what shall we do? We can rotate it. We can extrude it. Make a slightly different looking platform. We can rotate this one the other way. Gotta get at an angle. And as I saw before, the player appears to be unable to actually walk on things that have a steep angle, or steep-ish angle. I can't walk on 45-degree angles for whatever reason. So I'll try not to make these too steep. Have the player jump on that. Gonna level this one out a little bit more. And move this one over here. kind of rotate it so that it looks all funky. And then have one last little floating platform. Unfortunately, I seem to have not copied it, but to actually moved it. Whoops. Make sure you're always holding the right button, kiddies. Ah! Ah! I doubted my own jumping skills. Ah! So now there's these kind of unusually looking platforms, which does make things a little bit more interesting. You never want to have the same thing over and over again, because that would be bad. Well, unless you're playing two worlds, in which case, or rather facing worlds, in which case you always want to have the same thing over and over again, because God help us if we ever had a new map. Yeah. And here we are, into the next section. And of course, I could probably keep doing this forever and ever and ever and ever, but I'd rather not. And just the layout of the level here provides a nice kind of series of midpoints, in that if I fall down off of one of these platforms up here, then rather than starting over at the beginning, I'm on a little midsection. I can get up the ramp and I can start over again. You always want to do your best to put the mechanics into the level if you can, not have to screw around with other things when you can just funnel the player appropriately. And it should crawl pretty far. Yeah. So I believe blueprints. Blueprint. No, blueprints are fake classes, I believe. So I need to figure out what the equivalent of Kismet is. Pardon me for 1 second. I need to Google stuff. Do know that in Unreal 3, where you basically set up an actor so that it was a movable actor, and then you would go into Kismet and you would set up Matinee to move around a platform, specify the points, and it would move between them in a certain frame. I am looking up how to actually do a door, because a door should be fairly similar to a platform, except for it will move a little bit differently. So I'm probably not going to be able to use BSP for this, unless these BSP are actually... No, unless it has brushes rather than static meshes. Luckily, the floor appears to be a static mesh. Alrighty then. BSP, as you might guess from the name Binary Space Partition, is it's not going to play well with trying to manipulate it into a moving platform. Alrighty then. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? Let's focus on it. And first it wants me to set up the collision settings. Yeah, I don't need that. I don't need any of this. That's setting up a trigger. I don't need to do a trigger. This appears to be working on an older version of Unreal because it references Matinee, and I don't think Matinee... It looks like Matinee's depreciated. Let's name this guy. Make him a lot easier to find. So we'll name him Moving Plat. So let's add... where are you? Hello? There you are. Okay, and so it looks like we're at a time 0 here. So let's see if we can adjust him to 50. And that's not the button I wanted. Put him at 50 and adjust him over here and see what happens. No, not gonna work. Need a new keyframe, I believe. Move him to 50. Nope. Snapping. Animation sequence. How does keyframe? That's, I believe, loop. Alright. You forced me to look it up. Add keyframe to an animation. Auto key. Method is you can add key. We can add key button next to settings. Okay. So let's get to 50. And then we will, actually, we'll need to, let's move this down a little bit, and we'll key the whole thing. We'll have it stay where it is for 10, and then at 50, we will, actually, planning ahead, at 100 we want it to be keyed back where it is. At 50, we want it to be, get that out of the way. And let's just have it move over here, keyframe, and that should move it back and forth. And nope. No, loop does not work that way. And so let's see if that actually is something that happens in the level. Is there a play from here on Unreal 4? Yes, there is. But it appears to not work the way that I thought it would work. So to make this easier, I am going to take the quote-unquote player I'm going to move him all the way over to where our little sample is. So we can go look to see if it's actually moving. No, it's not moving. In fact, it has no collision, which is bad. We did create a level sequence object. And let's set it to autoplay, loop indefinitely. Hey now! We got us an ugly, ugly platform. But we got it moving. Figured it out. It's probably moving a little bit too quickly. I think that's where the stuttering coming from. And also, the physics on the defaults actor is incredibly wonky, as we can see from the fact that I just flew way far away. Whee! Let's go look back at that level sequence. See if we can edit it. Yeah, I had the feeling that the animation is actually affecting the scale rotation, or scale matrix. So let's make the platform a little bit thicker. Or not. Come on. I had the wrong thing selected, that's why. And we'll keyframe that. And hopefully that will fix... Nope, that's not going to work. Keyframe it there. Actually, if we just delete all of the keyframes here that we're screwing around with it, then its scaling should have no change whatsoever along the path. Unfortunately, I did not save that change. Or did I? I am so confused. Yeah, I don't know why, but it's wanting it to be like that. So I'm going to have to scale it, keyframe it, and then it should not adjust at any point. Good. Good, good, good. And so now I have a moving platform. Once again, the physics that for the very defaults kind of test pond they set up, somewhat wonky. Also, I can jump like a madman. I think I'll use that to my advantage. Keep forgetting to hold down Alt to copy a platform. Let's see if I can use that to actually have the player fling himself to the next platform. These walls are going to have to be taller to deal with the player flinging himself. Although I suppose technically the player could fling himself backwards and out of the level, which would not be good. I'd want to have a blocking volume on top of this before I finalized it, just to prevent the player from doing just that. And there you go. Very simple use of actually I would qualify as a bug to turn into a feature. That's what you want to do as a developer. You always want to take your bugs and turn them into features, if possible. Mostly not possible, unfortunately. And while I'm doing that, let's animate these guys. So actually, let's animate only one of them for now. Doesn't need any special name. This is a BSP, isn't it? And I don't think we can animate BSPs. I could be proved wrong in the future, but I don't think we can animate BSPs. Instead, I will have to create a series of rotating platforms with these guys. And as we saw, that's a little bit too thin before. I'm not quite sure if the player can actually get up there. Should hope so. And we'll expand it that way. And then we will animate it to rotate around. And this guy is, what's the name of this guy? Moving Plat 2. Works for me. And we're going to keyframe his location there, which actually what I should be doing is keyframe location and rotation, but I don't think I'm going to be scaling him. Actually, I don't think I'm going to be moving his location either. I just want to rotate him. Rotat. And I'm going to loop it. And where is the loop? There's the end of the loop. Loop is going to be once again 100. Let's add a keyframe right there. And then in the middle, we'll keyframe a 180-degree rotation. Now the problem that I might encounter is the fact that this is 180 degrees, and both ways of rotating it backwards to where it started are equally valid, depending upon how it interpolates. So we'll see what happens. I'd rather have it rotate all the way around, but we can deal with that if necessary. Yep, it's going to rotate back and forth rather than rotating around. There's an easy way to solve that. what's it at? It's currently at 90, so we're going to set it to negative 90. Nope, we're going to set it to negative 180, so that it rotates all the way around. Okay, so my math is wrong, so sue me. And unfortunately, we need to set that sequence to be on. Autoplay it. Loop it infinitely. And now we can see in the distance that the platform is spinning around. Right round, baby, like a record, baby. Right round, round, round. And I jump far too late. Gotta jump at just the right point. And of course this is kind of glitchy because it is based upon just screwing around with the physics actors. Come on. Come on. Alright, enough of that. As a developer, you always have the right to cheat. Cheat unendingly. So instead, I am going to cheat my way over here. And I should be able to actually snap this to the ground. Perfect. And now I have a flotating a rotating platform that will make you very, very sick if you spend too long on it. And of course I could edit the animation curve to make this even smoother. I could slow it down right here. So let's play it at... that didn't work. Play it at roughly half speed. Kinda choppy though. Not nearly as smooth. So instead of doing that, let's... No, I don't need that. Huh. And where'd my thing go? There's moving platform. There's moving platform 2. There should be moving platform 3. Okay. Weird. And we'll switch back here. And I want the whole thing to run a little bit slowly, so increase that to 200. Move this all the way over to 200. Move this over to 100. And now it should rotate all the way around again in half the time, and it will run a little bit more smoothly than when I just edited the run speed. Because then that, you know, had the same number of frames, but over, they weren't as smoothly moving between each other. And then I can have another platform over here. And I should be able to reuse sequence 3. This guy is moving platform 3. And of course, if you were doing this as a more final level, you would want names that actually make sense. And for moving platform 3, I will keyframe his rotation here. Meh. Keyframe his rotation there. Keyframe his rotation in the middle. And then I will rotate him. So that he's standing straight up. It's not moving the way I liked it to move. Let's have it start at negative 180 and have it move to positive 180 roughly. And I'm sure I can smooth that out a whole lot more, but just as an example. Now I have a rotating platform. I can actually stand on the side of it pretty well. And of course, you could set these at different scales so they don't look like they're moving in sequence. Although they do move fairly smoothly, considering how very rough I'm trying to be with this stuff. And then I can have a moving platform here. This one really is going to be a moving platform. So I will add him. I will keyframe his location. And then it's 200 long. So say 75. I want him to be over here. And I want him to wait for 25. And I want him to move back at 175. I don't think he's keyframed at 0. Let's see if I can copy that. I don't think I can copy that. But I can still approximate the same location. This is generally why you want to make sure that you keyframe, if something is going to be moving back and forth, you keyframe it at the beginning and at the end at the same time, and then you screw around with its location in the middle. Precisely because that gives you better control over how it is. And when you have a moving platform, you always want to have it stay and just kind of hover in one location for, quarter second, half second. Just enough so that it kind of looks like it's sticking. It makes it easier to tell where it is. If you don't have it stick in a spot for one location, as soon as it reaches the far point, it will immediately move back, and it's kind of a jarring effect. And of course, I can just get on top of it that way too. It's not cheating when it's not cheating because I developed it. Create another platform. Make it a little bit lower so that you can actually reach it from the moving platform. Let's see here. Can I play the sequence right now? Doesn't look like it. Well, I'm sure I can, but so that actually moves into there, so I don't want to have that. So I will move. Come on. I'll move you here. And then I can jump from the moving platform onto there. And I am going to make this... I have to redo that. That was dumb. Okay, good. And now I can move my walls over here. And if I wanted to, I could continue to make this endless kind of hallway thing forever. But for right now, I think I'm going to put a wall at the end here. And just say, if you can make it to the end, then you're WinRAR. And move the player's start all the way back. Okay. Rebuild the lighting. I don't think the lighting's actually going to really do anything to improve things, but you never know. Always worth building the lighting. You can never overestimate just how much better lighting makes things look. Let's save this as test platformer map, and we'll say it fit outside of any of the other folders, just so we know that it's not an example map. Wait for the lighting to build. Like I say, lighting is absolutely essential and makes things look so much better. If you have an ugly level and you have the right lighting, it'll still look pretty. If you have a pretty level and it has the wrong lighting, it'll look ugly. Just the nature of how lighting works and its absolute essential nature to game development. And it's encoding those maps. Come on. You can do it. Okay. Which, you know, it added some shadows. Neat. And so with that, just in about an hour, I have created a very, very simple little platformer level which could form the basis of a game or um, tutorial or whatever. But for me, was a good way of figuring out basic how to use BSP in Unreal 4, and also apparently how to use some of the actors and sequences and scripting level to make little things move. In this particular case, how to make the platforms move. And some of the basics that I get to relearn. And also how incredibly messed up the physics are with this guy. Which is understandable considering that I really don't think that the developers thought that I'd be messing around with him as much as I am. Let's see if I can select... No. I can't. But I'd probably want to make this a little bit closer, and I would not want to rely on the broken nature of that to make things work. But like I said, about an hour, there's this kind of a very simple test level put together. This would be the equivalent of like an introductory project for a level development class. And of course, you would always want to extend your post-process volume and your light and points volume to cover the playable area on the map. Looks like these aren't scaling 1-to-1, so I'm going to have to mess around with them. Camera speed, I need to figure out how to adjust, because the camera is not moving very fast, even at the apparent fastest speed. And of course, in my post-process volumes, I could do all kinds of wonderful, funky things, as I have before. I'll have to mess around with those later to see what I can do. But for now, just the simple level setup. Kind of very basic. But it is a level, and I can be proud that I actually did something as opposed to doing nothing this weekend. And that was my first soiree into Unreal 4 game development. I hope you got something out of that. At the very least, I got something out of it. And next time I can do something a little bit more complicated, and hopefully something with textures and materials, because the untextured surfaces still hurt my brain and make me think that I did a very bad job. So that's it for now. See you guys later.